It's a country of nearly 50 million, trying to overcome political issues, a poor economy, and an unenviable record on human rights. But observers say look more closely, and you'll also find a people under siege from hunger.
There's lots of people would say this would be their last resort. They would try to be able to live and survive whichever way they could, either by hiding during the day if the soldiers come, and then going back and trying to find where they hid their food.
Myanmar's remote border areas are seen as a hotbed of insurgent operations. Villagers in the region say the military blame them for supporting rebel activity. And rights monitors maintain that's led to the systematic misappropriation of the already scarce food supply.
Today, the military is interfering at every level, at the level of production, at the level of collection, at the level of distribution, and everywhere. And they're collecting, compulsory collecting whatever is grown. Some they export while people starve within the country. Some they appropriate for themselves, they distribute amongst themselves. And because it is given to the military, automatic corruption also has come. And there is a lot of corruption at this level.
Yangon's state-run newspaper, The New Light of Myanmar, religiously promotes the country's agricultural industry as healthy, but observers disagree. The Hong Kong-based Asian Human Rights Commission formed a People's Tribunal to investigate Myanmar's food situation. It took years to collect evidence.
We had a number of people who had gone into Burma, they are all Burmese people of course, and collected material. They had to bring those material, they take photographs, videotapes, and literally smuggle the entire thing out of Burma, because there were securities at every level, and it's very difficult. So that's why in our report, we could not mention the names of all the witnesses, because they had a sort of fear. If the names are disclosed, anything could happen to them.
Witnesses like these recounted the alleged terror.
When the villagers fled, they couldn't take very much food with them. They fed what they had to the children, and the adults fasted. They went and secretly grabbed food now and then. One woman gave birth during this time, but the child died due to the conditions in the forest. These villagers have had to hide out there for 5 months, the entire rainy season.
More than 24 Burmese refugees and dissidents gave videotaped depositions on the food shortage. They included farmers, homeless workers, and even former civil servants who testified that severe hunger was fast becoming a nationwide trend. When the tribunal released its findings, it stated that the military had executed a strategy to treat the country's remote regions as free fire areas where all residents are assumed to be insurgents. And it's also reported on the government's so-called 4 cuts plan to cut rebels off from money, communication, recruits, and food. Today, activists maintain the situation is getting worse. Did you actually witness food shortage?
Absolutely. I've seen IDPs, they're displaced persons in the border areas, who are sending their young children to walk days and days to the Thai border to pick up sacks of rice to take back to their families. And why is it that these farmers can't even produce enough rice for themselves? It's not, there have been a couple of droughts over the past couple of seasons in Burma, but it's because the Burmese army is going around slaughtering their livestock, burning the paddy, forcing farmers off their land, even mining the paddy fields with landmines as a part of a program.
James Maudsley is no stranger in Myanmar. The ruling military junta sees the outspoken rights activists as an enemy of the state. The Briton was arrested and imprisoned several times for his pro-democracy activities in Myanmar. He's unrepentant and accuses Yangon of aggravating the food crisis.
Even farmers in central Burma, they're forced to sell a certain quantity of rice to the regime each harvest. And if they've not produced enough, they have to go to the market and buy it at a higher rate and sell it to the government at a lower rate. So farmers are losing money by producing rice, and many of them only have rice water for food after that. They don't even have the rice itself.
Hunger has also driven the country's Buddhist monks and nuns to seek food and shelter across the border in Thailand.
I think we will be faced with a conflict with Burma on a much more intense scale than we're facing now in the future. Because it seems as if the Burmese government has no direction in trying to mitigate or control its use of violence against its own people.
Kraisek Chunavan is the chairman of Thailand's Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs. He and his colleagues are pessimistic the problem can be reversed, along with the tide of refugees that have spilled into their country. The Thai government believes at least 1 million Burmese have sought refuge in Thailand.
I don't see any progress in negotiation between the democratic groups, democratic forces in Burma with the military. Hence, the suppression will continue in Burma. That suppression leads to an economic downturn. In fact, Burma is in such a crisis for so long that is almost what we call permanent. With this crisis, what you have is huge immigration from Burma into Thailand.
The challenge is to the government to first put as a top priority the well-being of the people of Burma before any specific policies. The sad thing is there are many countries, I understand, whose situations, food scarcity and famine comes from natural causes. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about natural causes. It's always sad when a situation occurs from human causes, because human causes should somehow be able to be in more control than natural causes. But at the same time, there's hope. Since it's a human cause, we can change.